I'm Jeff Matlow. Welcome to the best leadership podcast ever. Welcome back to the pod. It's always great to talk to you. It really makes my week exciting. My name's Jeff Matlow. I'm a recovering entrepreneur. I started 3 companies, sold them all. Enough with that stuff, right? I'm an author, a keynote speaker, and I am a coach to leaders and their leadership teams. They call me their leadership therapist. I'm not a therapist. I just play one on Zoom. If you're coaching curious, if you want to make your team more productive than it has ever been before, reach out to me. You can find me at bytitleonly.com. And also, by the way, you should check out my newsletter at thebestleadershipnewsletter.com. If you love this podcast, which you're going to flip out over the newsletter. And there's a community there of leaders that you need to be a part of. Check it out, thebestleadershipnewsletter.com. But first, before we go there, I need to tell you about my Uncle Melvin. Because one of my first memories in life is getting ready for my Uncle Melvin's funeral. I was only 4 or 5 when he died. My cousin Jody was already a teenager, and the only thing I can really remember from that day is her saying this to me. She said, "Remember, Jeff, this is a funeral, so no jokes." I still remember thinking, why is she telling me this? Of course I won't tell jokes at the funeral. I know what a funeral is. However, have you heard the one about the Jewish kid that walks into his uncle's funeral? I got to reminiscing about my Uncle Melvin's funeral, not because I was thinking of my Uncle Melvin, but because I was thinking of Melvin Conway, who's not my uncle. He's not even related. But I don't know many Melvins, so really, who knows? Melvin Conway is the person responsible for Conway's Law, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. As a leadership coach for leadership teams, my job is to remove the dis from dysfunctional. Recently, for instance, I was working with the 5 heads of the 5 departments of a tech company. I was called in by the COO because the company had some problems effectively building a product that met the needs of the marketplace, and they didn't understand why they couldn't do this well. So I did what any insightful leadership coach would do. I sat in on their strategic planning meeting. Now, the purpose of the meeting was to talk through the strategic roadmap and come to an agreement on how to move forward, and that's what they did. They discussed the roadmap, and though they had some conflict, they actually were able to resolve it, and they ended the meeting agreeing on the company's strategic direction. Sounds good, right? Like, why am I even there? But here's the thing. When they walked away and went back to their respective departmental responsibilities, they all ended up doing their own thing, a lot of which were actually different than the agreed upon direction. What the hell? Watching this behavior, it became pretty clear to me why the features they launched weren't aligned with the direction they'd agreed upon. It was Melvin Conway's fault. Conway's Law, as defined by our good friend and my potential long-lost uncle, is this. Any organization that designs a system will produce a design that reflects the organization's communication structure. Now that sounds like a gibbety gobble of words, doesn't it? So let me explain it in a better way. Your company's internal dysfunctions will be embodied in the products or services your company offers. So if your teams don't talk with each other, your product is going to end up disjointed. If your leaders are unclear in the direction, your roadmap is going to be directionless. And if there's a power struggle in leadership, your users are going to feel it in your company's offerings. So the best way to create a streamlined, compelling offering is to create a streamlined, inspirational company structure. And this leads us to your company culture. In its most basic sense, the level of dysfunction of your company culture is directly proportional to the dysfunction in your leadership's communications. If senior leadership communicates with fear, the culture will become one driven by fear. And a leadership team that can't communicate effectively will create a company that becomes a group of competitive silos. Now, leadership behavior is inexorably intertwined with company processes and the company's offerings. The way you behave, the way you communicate, and the product you put out will all have the same DNA. I was recently hired by a fairly big company. They're about $200 million, give or take. And they brought me on to help coach the leadership team and bring function to a dysfunctional environment. Understanding Conway's law, the first thing I did was talk with the CEO to determine what dysfunction was being passed down from the top. It took me less than a 30-minute conversation for me to realize that the CEO just didn't give a shit about operations. In fact, he had so little interest in company operations that he couldn't keep a COO in place. When the CEO doesn't care about operations, you're left with a company filled with stressful and chaotic processes, and that's what they had. But here's the problem. People don't want chaos. They want calm and consistency. So in order to fix that company, I had to coach the CEO and help him understand the importance of operational leadership in helping him achieve his goals. Miraculously, once we changed his mindset, the company culture's chaos began to fade away. Thank you, Melvin Conway. So if you want to fix your products or services, you have to fix your communication patterns. And if you want to fix your communication patterns, you need to explore how your company structure is causing them to fail. Here's a good way to start. Ask yourself, if our product behaved like the leadership team, what would it do? Then focus on changing that undesirable leadership behavior. And once you do that, you'll naturally improve the product. When my cousin Jody warned me not to tell jokes at Uncle Melvin's funeral, what she really was saying was read the room. And that's good advice for funerals, but it's also great advice for leaders because your company is a room and it reflects everything you say and do. If your team is misaligned, your product will be too. If your leaders are confused, your customers are going to be also. So if you want a better product, a better service, a better culture, start by creating better, more unified leadership communications. I guarantee your customers can tell the difference. So it's probably time you removed your dis from your dysfunction. Uncle Melvin would definitely approve. And listen, one good way to improve your skills here is join the Best Leadership community. In fact, you can get a discount by going to thebestleadershipnewsletter.com/podcast30. That'll give you a 30% discount. I appreciate you. Thanks for showing up. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.